only about 10 to 15% of licensed financial professionals are fiduciary, which means that term gets thrown around. A lot of folks aren't super familiar with it, but it
Yeah.
basically means in the eyes of the law, you have to be giving advice that's in the best interest of the client. So think about how wild that is, really,
That's
right?
crazy.
Yeah, 85 to 90% of licensed financial professionals do not have to give advice that's legally in the best interest of the client. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the What the Nell podcast with yours truly, Nell Tice. I have another amazing guest with me today, and this is a subject that we haven't really approached here on the What the Nell podcast. We're talking about financials for entrepreneurs. So that's coming up. But let me first introduce my guest. His name is Michael Scarpati, and he is the co-founder and CEO of Retire US, a fintech platform disrupting today's financial planning with a better path to financial freedom. After spending a decade as an independent financial advisor, designing systems for high net worth individuals and corporate executives, Michael shifted his focus to making independent fiduciary financial guidance, try saying that 3 times fast, more accessible. In 2022, he co-founded Retire US with the vision of blending technology with human relationships to make premium financial planning frictionless and affordable for everyone. So welcome, Michael, to the podcast.
Hey, Neil, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I gotta know, I mean, it sounds like a pretty intense career in financial planning. What led you to shifting gears and making this an affordable option for everyone?
Well, a lot of it, it was the entrepreneurial journey through and through. So coming out of college, I launched into the independent fiduciary financial planning. It is a tongue twister industry, and it's an eat what you kill type of career trajectory. So you come in, no book of business, no salary, and you need to not only learn the business to the extent that individuals that you don't know that well will trust you with their entire life savings and build, brick by brick, build the practice, build the business. And being in that channel is a very unique channel. I didn't know it getting into the industry, but only about 10 to 15% of licensed financial professionals are fiduciary, which means that term gets thrown around. A lot of folks aren't super familiar with it, but it
Yeah.
basically means in the eyes of the law, you have to be giving advice that's in the best interest of the client. So think about how wild that is, really,
That's
right?
crazy.
Yeah. 85 to 90% of licensed financial professionals do not have to give advice that's legally in the best interest of the client. Yeah. And so as a result, you see a lot of just really bad financial plans, and it's not necessarily because the professional themselves is doing anything nefarious. It's just the way the industry is structured. Most financial professionals do not work for you. They work for a big institution, right? And as a result, it's the best interest of the institution that they're there to serve, not the consumer.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the journey started. My partner, Michael Blausch, who's a CFP president of Retire US, we started back in 2010 in this independent channel. And as we really started to get our bearings, we started to really see how the industry works. We started to see that there was a really underserved part of the America, which is, the 98%, right? The 1 to 2% are working with this top of the line financial professional because they either
Yeah.
have the assets to access it or they can afford it. But the rest are kind of floating out there trying to fend for themselves. And we found that there's a really big opportunity to open up access to everybody.
Yeah. Wow, that makes so much sense. Those numbers are staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, I just saw a meme this morning like, oh, there's no test or anything for people to have kids, but you need a license to fish. And it's kind of like the same type of thing. I mean, there's nothing required, to be able to just start giving this financial advice, even if it's not in a client's best interest. Like, that's wild to me.
Well, so there are requirements. There's licenses. That's actually a thing that's, I think, even crazier, is that you do have to go through a licensing process. So these are licensed professionals. I mean, they went through that process. It's just a matter of now the guidance they give can't be held accountable in the court of law as was this or was this not in the best interest of the client, right? I
Got
mean,
it.
it's interesting because most of the professionals are out there representing an institution which has their own proprietary product set or platform in which they're really at the end of the day in the business of gathering assets to that specific platform.
Sure.
And so it's not that they're there ill intent. They're there to give quality advice, but it's quality advice within the scope of the ecosystem they're operating, right? And that's
Yeah.
where the industry fails us as a consumer base.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. So, keeping within the theme of today's topic, talking about entrepreneurs and setting up our financial futures, what is the most common financial mistake that you see entrepreneurs making when they're in the early stages of starting or building their businesses?
It's a great question. And I don't think it's necessarily a mistake. I think it's the nature of the beast, and it's not paying yourself, right? It's the constant bootstrap mentality that we all have as entrepreneurs. We would rather invest in the business because we have the utmost belief and faith that we can make it happen versus paying ourselves and paying ourselves excess in the amount that we can save, right? So we can create personal savings. Most entrepreneurs, myself included, will do anything in their power to build the business, grow the valuation. The business is the long-term plan, right? At the end of the day, we're building our equity in our own companies and we're out here to grow that valuation and then ultimately leave it as a legacy to someone in our family or exit in some sort of liquidity event. And that will create some sort of a cash windfall that will be our long-term plan. But also as entrepreneurs, we got to be a little bit more, I think, honest with ourselves that the entrepreneurial journey does not always end in this beautiful unicorn exit or anything that may even have value at the end to sell. And so we have to be conscious of that fact that sometimes the entrepreneurial journey is about autonomy and cash flow. It's not about a big exit. And it's paramount that we also kind of hedge that bet with some sort of systematic savings, even if it's something small. So it's a quick little mindset shift of, listen, I know I want to reinvest this in the business and I still can, but I need to at least commit to something else that is kind of out of sight, out of mind. It is the backup plan of the exit and can start to leverage compounding interest throughout the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually, you just totally like foiled my next segment of questions because I was going to ask you, what's a mindset shift that it's difficult to go from, say, 9 to 5 life where, the money's just being taken out of your paycheck every week. It's going towards a 401k or a profit share or something like that. And it's out of sight, out of mind. And somebody comes in and they set it up for you and the whole thing. But then once you're out on your own and you're doing this, it requires some real self-motivation
Yeah.
and knowledge to be able to start something up like this for you. Because like you mentioned, we're just out here trying to build our businesses. And I'm even stuck in this cycle of like, it's like, for me, it's like a karma thing. Every Friday morning, before I do anything, like send out any invoices, I pay our contractors.
Yep.
And I'm just like, no, I think the universe is like telling me I should do that first before before I even invoice, just
Yep.
for whatever it's worth.
Yep.
But so what's one place that you would suggest that entrepreneurs go when they're first starting, getting out of that 9 to 5 cycle? Like, where should they look for knowledge? Like, where should they go?
I mean, honestly, I think right now, when you're starting off now, I truly believe that generative AI is such an amazing tool now to get started because it's such a personalized way. I mean, you can explain the entrepreneurship journey and where you're at specifically in the stage you're at to ChatGPT and start to get some advice in terms of what you need to learn or, stones to uncover and places to kind of build the foundation. I think the biggest hurdle for the entrepreneur is creating those milestones for yourself, right? So if you're going down a path to raise venture capital, there are specific milestones in your business where it's kind of like, all right, I need this money to get to this level because that unlocks X, Y, and Z, which creates new revenue streams. And then I can use, what I've built from there to get to the next level if I then raise more money. And it's kind of like this, it's this leveled approach where there's specific key milestones you understand about your business of what revenue is unlocked when you build certain infrastructure or bring on certain key people or build technology, whatever it may be. And I think what we need to shift some of our beliefs around in that entrepreneurship journey is what are the milestones where we kind of unlock the next layer of savings for ourselves for the future? Because there's, one component of it is just building up our cash reserves and emergency funds for the business. The problem with the entrepreneurship journey is it's not just your personal finances that you need to build your cash reserve for. You need to build your cash reserve also for the business. And you got two games that you're playing simultaneously. And then, depending on the staff that you have, a lot of people rely on your success and your ability to financially plan for the business. So it's a very crazy juggling act, that's for sure. But having some of these key milestones of, okay, I'm going to build my personal cash reserve first, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Then I'm going to shift over to the business. And my real objective is, all right, at least 3 months of the business expenses, the payrolls and that sort of thing. So I don't run into an issue if I have a slow month or two. Once you have those two things really stable, then instead of continuing to fund those cash reserves and just reinvesting every single piece into the business, now we kind of need to start thinking through, okay, what's enough, right?
Mhm.
In the entrepreneurial journey, you're constantly trying to drive your revenue and you're constantly reinvesting, but there needs to be some sort of criteria to hold you accountable. Say, okay, when I hit the 6-figure mark in revenue, I'm going to open up the solo 401k if I'm a solo practitioner, or I'm going to at least open the IRA or the Roth IRA. So I think that's a good framework to have. Is there's no right answer, is the
Mhm.
reality. Every business is so different,
Sure.
but having some sort of rules that you kind of, hold yourself accountable to, start to pay yourself more, whether that's a milestone. Okay, now we're at a certain profitability. Now I can increase my salary. And so, we kind of feel guilty as entrepreneurs a lot of times taking money from the business because it's our baby and we want to,
Yeah.
we want to give everything to it. But if you give everything to the business and you're not, filling your own cup financially as well, and it's just the same thing in life. If you're not filling your own cup financially, you can actually run into bigger stress issues that end up dominoing into the business. And, it's a slippery slope. So
Yeah.
I think having those rules, starting to kind of come up with frameworks and milestones is a good starting point. And then using generative AI to help land on them, right? Use that as kind of a partner and a tool to figure out, where you want to draw those lines.
Yeah. So how do we attack that guilt? I mean, sometimes it's just like, yeah, it's human nature, but I mean, how do we attack that? I think that, yeah, definitely entrepreneurs seem to have that chip, maybe a little more so than some others. But where do we start? I mean, how do we get into that mindset of, no, like, this is how it should be and this is how it should work?
Where do you think it comes from?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Why do we have it? I mean, this
Yeah,
is how we attack it. So why is it even there? Why do we
right.
feel that way? And I
Yeah.
don't know the answer offhand either. So let's talk it out. Like, where do you think it comes from?
I mean, I think it comes from, in your head. It's
Yeah.
definitely in your head,
Yeah.
right?
100%. But why? Like, why do we feel the need as an entrepreneur to sacrifice our own comfortability to feed the business constantly?
Do you think it comes from a place of we're constantly wanting to? I mean, the reasons why we start doing what we do is because we want to impact others
Yeah.
and we care deeply for others and we want to make a difference and serve them. And maybe it comes from a place of just, people, not people pleasing, but yeah, in a sense, people pleasing. Like we're taking away from others if we pay ourselves.
I think that's a really good spot to focus on. Well, there are some entrepreneurs too that aren't in it for service to others.
True. That's very
So
true.
where does it come from there? Um, yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. Is it's kind of like this, the business becomes an extension of the mission,
Yeah.
and there's some layer of, are we really fully committed to the mission that we set out to if we're going to be taking money off the top to pay ourselves? Is it selfish? Right. And I think that it's a lie that we tell ourselves. Right. So that's not really true. It's just something that's a story that we're ultimately telling ourselves. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like this, are we sacrificing the bigger picture of what we really set out to do, and it's some sort of a selfish act? But the thing is that selfish acts are when we're taking our wants over others, right? Not our needs. So our needs actually need to come first in this process, and whether it's business or whether it's life, we selfish acts start to step in when you're prioritizing your wants over somebody else's needs, right?
Yeah.
But your needs, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've always heard that saying. The same goes for business. So if you're financially stressed, we also get into entrepreneurship for flexibility and freedom and autonomy and the ability to create and manifest what we see as a vision for the future, for our professional life and for humanity, the world, whatever it may be. And with that, if you're constantly stressed over money and you're constantly pinching pennies because you really wanted to hire that extra person, but yourself, right, is not in a stable place, it will bleed into the business, right? It will bleed in the business. So
Yeah.
it's I think there's just a level of grace we all need to give ourselves as entrepreneurs. We have to give ourselves some grace in that. Is this a want thing or a need thing? That's the exercise that I would go to, right?
Oh,
Like
that's so
paying my
good.
rent and not pinching pennies to be at the grocery store, or do whatever it is that are my critical cash flow needs, are not anything we should feel guilty about, right? Those are things
Yeah.
that we need to have easily accessible for 3 to 6 months. Once you're out there, then it's time to kind of reassess and I think play that balancing act with a little bit more clarity.
Yeah, that's so, so good. And I love that we kind of get into the psychology of the guilt around it. So I want to know, I mean, along your journey, obviously there's experiences and education that you've, garnered throughout your entire journey. But what is one money belief that you had to unlearn before starting your own journey?
For me, I don't know if it was a money belief. I think that what would be more valuable is actually an emotional fear belief
Okay,
when it comes
yeah.
to building business. And so there was a big thing that it took years for me to let this go, but I had this deep fear of failure for a very, very long time. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel that. And as entrepreneurs, I think we tend to use that as a tailwind, right? Which is great. That's, taking that thing that is a negative belief system and using it as a superpower is extremely valuable, but it's also very unhealthy to have that belief, that kind of clenching in the gut, right? That
Mm-hmm.
as you're doing your day to day, that thing, like, you need to keep your head down, you need to work 1,000% harder than the next person because of this fear. That's what it was for me, at least, where
Yeah.
I had this fear of, and I think it actually stems truly. I think it's an ego thing. I think it stems from ego because we don't want to be judged for our failures, and we want to. We say we're going to do something, and so we want our peers to see us being successful. But for me, it manifested into a really bad anxiety problem that I had to go on, meds for a year or two, and had these panic attacks. And as I look back and unravel it, it was all because I thought I needed to hold on to the fear, right? I
Yeah.
thought the fear was the thing that propelled me forward. And to an extent, it did, right? It was a tailwind for me. And it's not necessary to have as an entrepreneur, right? We actually should have extreme peace and grace and belief and confidence just in ourselves to do whatever we need to do, and the patience and trust in the universe that things are going to play out the way they're going to play out. How we respond to them is all part of the journey. That fear, letting go of that fear earlier, would have saved me a lot of just health issues, life issues, but I didn't really recognize it. Like, I deep subconsciously in me, like, I thought I needed it, right? I thought that was the thing that kept me going, and without it, I wouldn't be successful. And so it was very difficult for me to unravel that belief. And I would imagine, a lot of entrepreneurs fit into the same mold or framework
For sure.
of that.
For sure. You're speaking to one of them right now.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that because it's very vulnerable. It's something that entrepreneurs, we like to talk about fear, but we like to talk about it on a very surface level. And
Yeah.
few ever really get into the nitty gritty of how they really started to overcome it, or the impacts that it had on their journeys. And I mean, even to the point of, if I decide to take a day where a friend of mine asks me to go shopping, I'm like, oh, should I put this on social media? I'm not working today. I don't want people to think I'm not working on a Tuesday, and the whole, like you mentioned earlier, part of the reasons why we start these paths is to have freedom
Right.
and flexibility.
Right.
And so something that I've been working so hard for that has been achieved, I'm now feeling guilty
Yep.
for actually doing it. It's the craziest thing. Like, I just, it's so hard to explain, but I feel like so many of our listeners and viewers are feeling that. But are there any specific routines that have helped you overcome that fear? Anything, that you started doing like every morning, or, like when you wake up, or just anything that you do daily that helps you get over that fear?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really funny what you mentioned. It's this weird paradox that is created with, we're here to create a better future, financial freedom for ourselves, and flexibility and autonomy. And then this fear of, it's all judgment, right? It's fear of judgment,
Yeah.
right? It's all a judgment thing that we just need to let go. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's so deeply ingrained in us from childhood, and it's just there. We're so afraid. It's a spotlight effect. But the reality is, what I would encourage you to do in those situations is just kind of keep the lens, and remember, nobody's really dissecting your life. And if they are, it's for maybe 30 seconds max, 5 seconds, and then they're on to the next problem. Most people are focused on their own life, right? And most people are worried about other people's judgments about their own life. They're actually not really judging us. It's like the spotlight effect that exists. That's just, again, it's just not really that real. A lot
Yeah.
of it's in our head. The fear stuff, I mean, I think that's part of letting go. A lot of the fear is starting to reframe and doing the inner work, right? The inner work is everything, and that helps us reset the external world, right? So most, just from my own personal journey, what I've found over about like 10 years, I've been doing like deeper inner work. And what I've found is that most of the beliefs that we have were created just through our conditioning, through, the indoctrination of life and society the way we see it now. But it doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean it's right.
Sure.
And we have to start unwinding some of those things. So a practice that I found really helpful is cultivating the witness within yourself. So being able to start to cultivate yourself as a witness of the thoughts, of the emotions, not identifying with them, and actually seeing them pass. So I see that I want to go shopping today. It's Tuesday. First of all, you earned that. You completely earned
Thank
that.
you.
Nobody sees when you're clocking the 12-hour days and you're up
Right.
at 2 in the morning working on the idea that came to you, or working through the weekend when people are out partying. So Like,
Preach.
get that out of here. Like, you earned it. You can do whatever you want. But when that thought comes up, what I found really helpful is to start unraveling it by seeing it. Don't identify with it, right? Don't judge it. Just see it. Just observe it. Oh, that's interesting. So I feel guilty. So what would I need to believe? There's something called the sponsoring belief, right? And this
Mhm.
is deep in the psychology. What would I need to believe to be true in order for that thought or that emotion to be coming through? So there's something deeper in there that you got to go find. And that's where the inner work comes in, which is go into meditation, like quiet yourself and say, all right, like show me, tell me what is it that I'm holding on to or that I subtly believe inside that makes me feel guilty about, and then it'll just it'll come to you. You'll see it and
Yeah.
okay, where does that come from? Right. And it may come from something that somebody told you when you were 5, and we're impressionable when we're under the age of 7 and 8. Your brain is in the theta state, which is basically hypnosis. You're just in a suggestive
Wow.
state as a human being. So you're just a sponge and you're taking things in as truth, right? You're not discerning whether it's real or not. And then it builds the basis of your belief system. So a lot of this stuff comes from there where you go, oh, and it's really hard. It's difficult. It takes time to sit with these things. But the reality is it's in your brain, it's in your subconscious, it's there. And if you do the work to go find it, then you can address it, acknowledge it, heal it, talk to that inner child of yourself, whatever it might be, 5 years old, and you say, hey, listen, I know X, Y, and Z told you that you need to feel guilty if you're not working during the week, right? Because we work
Hmm.
9 to 5 and that's what our family does or whatever it is. But that's not true, right? That's coming from a perspective of someone who's not an entrepreneur and isn't
Sure.
putting in late hours. And like you actually can do this process of speaking to that piece of yourself. And then all of a sudden, what you'll find is those thoughts and those feelings actually start to disappear, or they're a lot lighter, right? They're not as jolting
Yeah.
when they come. They're still there. But then that witness observing and go, oh, I see you over there, guilt thought, but I'm not going to engage with you. Like that's not me. That's just something
Yeah.
from my past. And I'm going to let you go through and I'm going to the mall.
Yeah, I'm going to the mall. Every time. I love that. Yeah, I mean that's just it's so good and it's so needed to look within and really do that personal. I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel guilty about that too, taking time to do that inner work. And when they should be, quote unquote, focusing on the business. And a lot of people don't realize that doing that inner work actually is focusing on the
A
business
100%.
because you are your business. And
Yep.
yeah, that's crazy. Do you think there are generational trends in how people think about this stuff?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, how could there not be, right? Like think about that pattern of just how it works as a human being.
Mhm.
Until you're 7 or 8, you're getting essentially just programmed. Your brain is an open system to be programmed by all the authority figures in your life, which is going to
Mhm.
be the generation or 2 generations above you. But those generations were just programmed the same way by the generations with less and less information. Right now, we're in the information age. It's easier for us to break out of the patterning and the conditioning because we can, at the snap of our fingers, go onto generative AI or go into Google or whatever it may be, and get the information necessary to unlearn the patterns and unlearn the programs that were instilled upon us. But our grandparents didn't have any access to, again, the information was so limited that they had access to, and our
Yeah.
parents the same. And so we're the generation that I think is, if you want to break those things, really have all the tools at your disposal now to do it. But
Yeah.
we also got to we got to give everybody a little bit of grace.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think that's the one thing that we're definitely lacking
Oh
in
yeah.
our society, especially here in the US. And it's I have this conversation all the time with a few friends about kids these days growing up and their money beliefs and what they're learning, what they're not learning. And we talk about all the time. Do you think the responsibility should lie more within the parents of these children and building their financial futures? Or do you think that this should rely in the responsibility of like schools and things like that?
I mean, I think it's both. I think it should be a joint effort. We could go down a whole rabbit hole of just school curriculum and what's missing there. I mean, the truth is, and it's a wild one to say out loud. I didn't really know what a 401k was until I graduated college, until I was in the workforce in financial services. Like that's
Wow.
insanity,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's and I was in business courses and finance courses, and this was just it was not a subject that we ever learned, we were ever taught.
That is crazy.
And it's nuts. Like, I'm not kidding you. It's embarrassing, but looking at jobs, and this was years ago, so the way that we operated as college kids was obviously a lot different now. But I'm looking at jobs and seeing 401k, and I'm like, what is that? What does that actually really mean? And it's crazy to think that it's a key benefit that's really important long term, having an employer sponsored retirement plan or some sort of retirement plan. And the value of those things is not instilled in us at a young age, or even at the collegiate level. And I
Yeah.
think that things have gotten a little bit better, and there's more financial literacy and financial planning classes that are available in at least higher education.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest money mindset shift that would be helpful for people is to change your relationship with money in terms of it being this resource that is scarce, right? It's like the scarcity mindset, and it's a resource that we always need to be actively moving to make sure that we have more of it, versus it's a tool, right? It's a resource that's a tool, and there's plenty of it out there, right? Like that shift, and really reevaluating our relationship with, one, how we view it, and then how we understand how it's created, right?
Ah,
Right, how we
that's a
understand how
key
it's
point.
created.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you'll hear all the gurus out there where it's like the moment that you can understand that you can make money in your sleep, right? Making money in your sleep is investing money, right?
Yeah.
Spending money, putting it in a place where it's at least gaining interest, like it's making money while you sleep.
Yeah.
Um, and I heard a really good quote. I think it was from Pitbull, actually, the artist Pitbull. And he
Yeah.
said, if you're chasing money, I'm going to butcher the quote, but if you're chasing money, right? If you're chasing money, you're constantly going to be chasing it, right? You're always going to be
Yeah.
chasing it. But when you make this decision to chase money, you will be constantly running after it, right? When you change that mentality, essentially, and you're doing things for a bigger purpose, or you're not focusing on the money starts to chase you. And again, like, that is a hell of a paraphrase of that quote, whatever it was.
We got the gist of
But
it.
the gist of it's what's important, right? The gist of it is that I think a lot of times the entrepreneur does set out focused on money, right?
Yeah.
Focused on the money. And mission driven entrepreneurship, time and time again, proves that if you're focused on the mission and you see money as the tool and as a resource to achieve the mission, and again, you put these guardrails in place where you know when you're going to be paying yourself, and right, there's a fair balance there.
Yeah.
Over time, that does manifest into an experience where the money just starts to flow in much more organically, and the mission becomes easier and easier and more scalable.
Yeah. I love that. It's funny, we can hear these things all the time, and it's
Yeah.
nice to hear you confirm that. But I really want people to take that in and take it to heart, because the reason why you're hearing these things is because they're true.
Yeah.
And, it's so important, especially as entrepreneurs, to really grasp that. So thank you for saying those words. So tell us about Retire US. What can people expect? Like, what's the experience like?
Sure. Yeah. So Retire US was really built out of being in this financial services industry for so long. And, the mission of the company is to disrupt today's financial services industry with a better path to financial freedom. And so that better path is one that is guided by independent fiduciaries, professionals that work for you, not a big institution, one that's fast and easy and frictionless. So instead of it taking hours of your time and 3 to 5 weeks just to be able to meet with a professional, 15 minutes is all it takes with our tech, and you can get you're ready to meet with a professional. And it's one that has no asset minimum, so we're removing the barriers of entry.
Wow.
So in the industry now, you need a $500,000, $1 million to qualify for advice from an independent fiduciary planner, or you need to be willing to pay $5,000 to $10,000 a year out of pocket to keep this professional on retainer like an attorney. With
Hmm.
the Retire US platform, our subscriptions start at $60 a month for the entry level tier to $150 a month, and then there's discounts for annual billing with no asset minimums. So you're able to work with these professionals, and it's not a robo advisor, right? In the age of robo, we actually did a ton of market research, and what we found is about 84% of people want to work with a human, right? They don't want to work with just an algorithm that they're answering a questionnaire and it's investing their
Sure.
money. They
Yeah.
want the human connection. They want the human relationship. They want to be heard and seen on what they're trying to accomplish and what their concerns are. And they want the human touch in building systems that address those things. And so that's a big component of the platform, that the subscription gets you access to the professionals. Really is the major value, right? You're getting access to professionals in this platform experience that's really easy to interact and get organized, get clear next steps for where you are in relation to where you want to be, and have a system to hold you accountable, right? That's the other big thing, right? Most people need the accountability
Yeah.
to their financial planning, just because it's one of those topics that I'll get to it. I don't feel like dealing with it. I don't feel like dealing with it. And I can tell you from being in the industry for 15 years, you never will feel like dealing with it. And every single day you kick that can down the road, you're missing out on extremely, extremely impactful and valuable compounding interest, right? The biggest
Yeah.
asset you actually have is time. And so the more time you waste in not addressing this stuff, the harder it's going to be to achieve your financial goals. So get started. That's the objective of the platform, is to do everything in our power to help people get out of their own way and eliminate some of these barriers of trust, right? With the fiduciary side of things, with cost and accessibility, with the asset minimums, and just the time and complexity of the process with technology, making it
Yeah.
easy.
That's great. That's amazing. That to me seems like something that I couldn't find a reason not to join. That's so accessible, and that's amazing. So
Thank you for
kudos
doing
to
that.
you for putting this forth and and changing the game, and like you said, disrupting the industry. That's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
One last thing that I want to know before we go, just because a lot of listeners and viewers of this show or podcast are, probably like 40 and maybe older.
Yep.
What would you say to someone of that age range that's thinking, oh, it's too late, I should have started earlier?
Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Right? We got it. So that is what would you have to believe to be true in order to think that, right? That's what I would say. Because that's just false, right? It's false.
Yeah.
The time to start is now. It doesn't matter if you're 40, 50, 60. Starting to get clarity on what you will need if you cannot actively work is vital and important. And it's really like the biggest thing that most people miss is they just arbitrarily start saving, and that's better than nothing. But
Hmm.
the reality is you need to start to draw some lines in the sand. That's what most people fail to do, and it doesn't give them clarity on actually what they need from their savings. It doesn't give them clarity on what they should be saving or what rates of return they should be targeting or how they should invest. Things are just floating out there, and they're missing valuable opportunities because there's no true purpose to their money. And so what I would say is, one, just reset. That's not true, right? It's okay to get started now. It doesn't need to take a ton of time. All you really need to understand is at what point in life, health permitting, I think is the best way to think about it, right? We like to think that we can work forever if we want to, especially as entrepreneurs. I'll never retire. But like the reality is the body is going to start to break down. And at some point, you're not going to be able to work anymore. So what age, what would make you feel comfortable and confident knowing, okay, at least by age 65 or age 70 or whatever, what would I need to have saved so that health permitting, I can't work at the rate that I do now and I can't generate the income through my own efforts? What would I need to have saved up? What does that look like? And we can actually sit down and quantify the cost of your lifestyle, what you would need to have saved up, right? Knowing that magic number is the biggest thing. So it's drawing the line in the sand and calculating that, all right, I need to have 500,000 at that point, or $1 million or $2 million, or whatever it may be. It's all relative. Being able to see that and put that line in the sand so that now you can kind of reverse engineer and unravel it. Okay, what would that mean I need to save every month? What would my investments need to do, year over year in order to be on pace for that goal? That's the process, right? It doesn't need to be that much more complicated. It can get way more complicated, but on the surface level, we got to define the vision, draw a line in the sand, and then evaluate where we are in relation to that goal, and just build the path out, create the framework that we're going to just follow. And then once you do it for a couple of months, it'll become a habit. Your lifestyle will acclimate around it, and boom, now we're at least on the path to financial freedom to some extent.
Ugh, this is so good. I just love this. Michael, how can people connect with you? Where can they find you? Give us all the details.
So personally on Instagram at Mike Scar, on Twitter at Scar333, Mike Scar333. Actually, I don't even know my Twitter, or X, whatever it's called.
Whatever it is today.
I'm not really active on it. Instagram is the best, but the company is going to be pushing out a ton of social content over the really starting next quarter is the objective. So we've been doing a lot of different recordings and things we'll be pushing out. So cool. At retire.us on Instagram, on LinkedIn. And those are the two major platforms that we really push out content on, or we'll be focused on. And then retire.us is the website. You can always, awesome. And we have a free mindfulness tier on there. You can get started. We have a financial checkpoint that will actually allow, it's like a 4 to 5 minute quiz that will start to help you understand and isolate various red flags in your financial situation now, what your retirement pacing looks like, your tax planning, and it's a good starting point. It also has access to a resources hub with articles and how-tos and different things. So that's also a really great way to get started. Go to retire.us. You can get started for free with the financial checkpoint, our mindfulness tier. And then if you're looking to, really be held accountable to take things to a mastery level, that's where, the paid tiers with the independent professionals come in.
Beautiful. Oh, people, please take advantage of these resources and this opportunity because, like Michael said earlier on in the episode, the time is now. So, Michael, thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. Thank you for providing all the value that you have. And I know if people choose to come work with you, they will get even more value. So this is just a small taste of what people can expect. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. And to anyone watching and listening, if you are listening on your favorite audio platform, don't forget to leave us a review. That's how we grow here at the What the Nell podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with a friend. Undoubtedly, you know someone else that needs to hear this message too. Like the video and send us comments and emails. We love hearing from you and feedback. So let us know what you want to hear, what you think. And we just love connecting with the community. So thank you all so much. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.